Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Latifa. Me and my friends are going to present about Albania. This presentation are divided by three parts. First part, I will explain the first part, and then second part will be explained by Hajar, and the very last part will be presented by Soraya. So let's move forward. Introduction. Obvious paper introduction, colonialism history, emergence of nationalism, independence movement, and formation of independent state. So where is Albania? What is Albania? So this is a bit short explanation about Albania. Albania is a southeastern Europe in a region known as the Western Balkan. As you can see from the map we provided at the left side of your screen. It is bordered by the Adriatic and Ionian Seas to the west. The terrain is mostly mountains and hills with small plains along the coast. So, the people of Albania, where does they come from? As you can see here, there actually terrain connecting Illyria part, now Serbia, Montenegro, and Bosnia, and Albania part. During wars, frontiers have been extended to the rivers nearby there, which located southward to the Adriatic Sea. That is why, from many sources, cited that Albanians generally consider themselves to be descendants of the ancient of Illyrian. So who is Illyrian? They are inhabitants from Illyria, northwestern part of the Balkan Peninsula, inhabited from about the 10th century BCE onwards by the Illyrians and Indo-European. Albania capital is Tirana, with the population recorded in July 2020 is 2.87 million, which is just less than 3 million. Their official language is Albanian language. The religion, Muslim with majority 58.7%, Christian 17%, others either they are atheist or non-religion 15.3%. Monetary unit is Albanian lek. Their main exports are machinery, foodstuffs, textiles, and chemical. This is the flag of Albania. A red flag, a red color stands for bravery, strength, and valor. The double-headed eagle represents the sovereign state of Albania. Move forward to colonialism history. The Albanian evolution starts from the ancient Illyrians, from ruled by the Greeks, Roman, and then Byzantine since 229 BC. But then, because of their location and strategic location, they have been attacked by many foreign powers, conquered, and then but then they are conquered by Ottoman since then until 1388 and didn't get any independence until 1912. And then a bit of Germany occupation during World War II and become republic country, later democratic nation in 1992. These two political system of Republic of Albania and democratic nation will be explained more by Soraya. After the war and many crises and problems arose, the Albanian League was suppressed by the Turks in 1891, even though originally the Albanian League was supported by Ottoman government, because the government, they were alarmed by its strong nationalistic orientation. So this is as a symbol of Albania's national awakening, because when we can see when the Young Turk busy expanding their powers in Istanbul in 1908, Albanian to wanted to institute democratic reform, and they and later they become powerful and forced to grant their demand. So the Albanian Balkans, a neighboring country who had made plans to partition the region, took advantage next, because for this they really want to take uh, some some state of Albania country. So the Greek, Serbian, Montenegro armies advanced into Albanian territories, and they declared war on Turkey in October 1912. So Turkey somehow has defeated by Balkan Alliance army. So to prevent any complete destruction, Albanian national delegates led by Ismail Kamal went to a congress in Cologne. So the result of the declaration, the result of the congress, they declared Albania's independence on November 28, 1912. Even though finally the congress, no, but this is not total peace yet for Balkan, for Albania country, because there were many upcoming critical movement and events that led to changing of political system. So I pass my turn to next presenter. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nahaja binti Muhammad Nasari, and today I will present about political status, economic status, the rights of women, and the index of literacy, happiness, and corruption in Albania. So let's start with political status. Okay, as we know that the official names of Albania is Republika of Albania. The government type is Unitary Parliamentary Constitutional Republika, headed by Ilimita, who is the president that represents the unity of Albanian people in the country and abroad as the head of the states and also as the commander-in-chief of the military. Okay, so usually in parliamentary, president is nominated through a secret vote, and its same goes to Elimita. And Elimita, he is the one who needs to maintain coordinated operation and safeguard the independence and territorial integrity of Albania. And Elimita also is the one who appoints the Prime Minister of Albania. Okay, known as Edibama. Okay, Edibama can be categorized as de facto or the most powerful or influential persons in Albanian politics. Okay, for the government, it divides into three. Like a normal parliamentary, we have LEJ. LEJ means legislative, executive, and judiciary. Okay, for the legislative power is vast in the Parliament of Albania. And executive power is also exercised by the government itself and the Prime Minister with its cabinet. And for the judiciary, usually judiciary is an independence of executive and legislative. Okay, so these are the political parties with representations in the Albanian parliamentary following the general parliament elections of 2017. And the first party is Socialist Party of Albania, led by Edi Bama itself. And the second one is Democratic Party of Albania, and the third party is Socialist Movement for Integration, and we also have a Party for Justice, Integrations and Unity. And the last party is Social Democratic Party of Albania. Okay, so for the political stability, this is the current issue, what is happening in Albania. Okay, Albania, until today, Albania has still not reached the level political inquiry to be called a real democracy. Instead, the country has been considered as a hybrid regime, and there has not been recorded any improvement towards democracy since 2018. Okay, so the country, of course, lack of democratic assets such as the electoral process, pluralism, civil liberties, and political participation. Okay, as a result, political culture is developing more towards an autocratic regimes. Okay, so it's also political also the gateway for the corruption and crimes that happens in Albania, and political also as the fastest way to get rich by getting involved with the government that is no longer run by the member of the parliament, but by criminal destroying the main cause of democracy for their personal interest. Means that they usually involve in politics because of their own personal interest. And of course, the current political situation is a result of failure to achieve any improvement, whether is in education, infrastructure, healthcare, and employment. Okay, so let's move to economic status. Okay, as can refer to the graph here, Albania is expected to lose 1.4% of GDP in 2020 as the effects of steps taken to halt the spread of COVID-19, and which severely hit the country's manufacturing, trade, tourism, and other non-tradable services. Okay, public debt is expected to increase in 2020 due to the pandemic. Okay, and the support for post uh, earthquake reconstruction, because earthquake happened last year in 2019 in Albania. Okay, and also Albania remains one of the Europe's poorest country, with slow economic growth hindered by a large informal economy and weak energy and transportation infrastructure. High employment and lack of opportunity encourage the immigration. Okay, so here for the economic activity, I divide into three. We have agriculture, fishery, and forestry. Okay, agriculture is an important economy sector of the Albanian economy. It contributes around 80.4 percent of the GDP. Agriculture production also concentrates on wheat, corn, potatoes, vegetable, olive, tobacco, fruits, sugar beets, wine, livestock farming, and dairy products. But the agriculture sector in Albania suffer from a lack of modern equipment and highly fragmented land ownership and limited area of cultivation, which also led to the low productivity. And it should be noted that the agriculture production is higher than its share of the GDP. The sector that concentrates on food processing, textile and clothing, timber, oil, cements, chemical product, mining, transport, and hydraulic energy, that manufacturing product also contribute to nearly 6% of the country's GDP. Okay, and for a fishery, with the access to both Adriatic and Ionian seas, the Albanian fishing industry has a great potential. However, due to the lack of professional fishermen and aquatic equipment, it has not been fully developed. The catch, for example, the catch that Albanian can get from the Ionian Seas include a fish of carp, trouts, sea breams, mussels, and others. Okay, and for the forestry, okay, forests cover about one-third of Albanian. The country, however, has lost much of its forest area, however, due to the clearance for agriculture, pasture, and fuel wood, which occurred mainly in early 1990 century, 1990 years. Okay, in the middle of 1990, the Albanian government joined with the Italy and the World Bank to implement a forest project, which include this to strengthen the Albanian's environment institution and the introduction to sustainability the forest method. Okay, so these three sector contribute a lot to the Albanian country and GDP. Okay, so let's move to the rights of women here. I divide into four. The first one is gender-based and domestic violence. The second one is women's economic empowerment. The third one is right to property, and the last one is decision making. Okay, for the gender-based and domestic violence, more than half of Albanian women aged from 15 until 49 have experienced at least one form of domestic violence in their lifetimes. Okay, so rural women, uh, those with little or no education, and married women are most affected by the phenomenon. Violence is rooted deeply because of two reasons. The first one is patriarchal tradition, and the second one is unequal status of women in society. So that's are the two reasons why the domestic and gender-based happen in Albania. Okay, for the women economics empowerment, labor market participations in Albania is among the lowest in the regions for the women. Women's participation in economic is significantly lower compared to men, and in the economics field, there is occupational and sectorial segregation between men and women, whereby women constitute only 9% of labor force in the lucrative and influential sector of the market economy. Okay, and the rest will commanded by men. And women earn only 57% of male average income, while young women face similar challenges as men when they graduated from the secondary or tertiary schools to enter the labor market. Okay, they are further burdened by gender expectations that they attend to family and child care first. Okay, so for the right to property, the poor implementations of property legislation law and the patriarchal traditions that favor son in the inheritance of family property has created a gender gap between men and women in terms of wealth in Albania. Although Albania law guarantee the women rights to property, experts warn that they are not always implemented. And together with the tradition that favor men in the inheritance of family property, a deep gap has created between the number of women and men who own the property in that country. Okay, so according to the rights activists, this makes Albanian women economically dependent a lot to their husbands, making it difficult to break off an unhappy or violent marriage and start a new life. Meaning that the rights of property they depend a lot to the husbands to live in economically. So they are most unhappy or the most affected in the violent marriage. Okay, so for the Albanian women in decision making here, um, there are low representations of women in Albanian government, um, which allowed for the gender-based discrimination in education and employment to run rampant throughout the country. So with fewer women involved in decision making, girls have fewer protections, making something as necessary as education is difficult to obtain. Okay, so that's for the rights of women, and we proceed with the happiness in Albanian. Okay, happiness is perhaps influenced by the technology, social norms, conflicts, and government's policy. So that's why Albanian rank among the least happy country in Europe, and Albanian ranks 107th out of 156 countries in the world. So they are least happy compared to the other um, European Union countries. Okay, so for the literacy rate in Albania, the government has devoted considerable resources to education, which schooling is compulsory between age 7 until 15. Okay, for the education at the primary and secondary level is free, and for higher education level, the fee are based on family income. The University of Tirana, established in 1957, is the country's major institution of higher education. Tirana also has an agriculture and polytechnic university, along with an impressive network of professional and vocational schools. That's why here more than 9/10 of the population aged 15 and older is literate. Okay, so for the corruptions in Albania, I divide into three in terms of judicial systems, police, and the tax administrations. Okay, in terms of judicial system, corruption in the Albanian judicial system is widespread and a very high risk for businesses. Bribes are often exchanged for favorable judicial decisions, and judges and prosecutors are lack of accountability. The process of appointing judges is also influenced by corruption. In addition, the enforcement of court decisions is also weak when it comes, particularly when they have a conflict with the government's interests. Okay, in terms of police, um, businesses face a high risk of corruption when dealing with the police. Corruption and immunity are persistent problems, largely because of low salary of the police officer, as well as a subsequent lack of motivation, diversity, and leadership. Okay, in terms of tax administration, okay, tax administration carries a high corruption risk for businesses. Irregular payment and bribes are often exchanged when meeting with a tax official. Some improvements have been made in the tax administration, such as the establishment of e-filing tax system, but still corruption still exists and negatively affecting the business environment. So that is for the corruptions in Albania. So we'll proceed with the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nusraya binti Chari. Today, I will present my part, which is the democracy system, political system. First, we begin with point. Albania began its democratic transition in 1991, setting out to establish a pluralist political system that protects and advances fundamental human rights. Next is it has since joined NATO and is a candidate for European Union membership. Albanian politics, however, are highly polarized and prone to destructive partisanship, which is that impedance progress towards anti-corruption and rule of law reforms that are necessary for EU accession. Civil society is active but frustrated by a lack of access to decision makers, and many Albanians feel disconnected from their elected Dia elected representative, although Parliament is taking steps to make the legislative process more open and participating. Next, we move to the next point, which is NDI has worked in Albania for more than 2 decades, promoting political parties development, supporting democratic election, increasing the transparency of political finance, and assisting with citizen political participation, uh, particularly among women and youth only. And NDI also helps politicians, civic activities and citizens in general to engage in election monitoring, legislative advocacy and issue-based organizing at the local level. NDI also has support women civil society organisation to advocate successfully, which is for strengthening a gender election, quota, youth participation, to institute policy development practice inside parties and also citizens of the organisation election to increase transparency of the electoral process. NDI also assists the Albanian Parliament, including through supporting the development of parliamentary service and staff to provide independent, balanced and professional research and also analysis to facilitate informed legislative decision making. Next, we move to the slide, the condition of secularism. First point is Albania is a constitutional secular country, while the religious demography of the country has a Muslim majority, which is there is also a strong Albanian Orthodox and also Roman Catholic population during that time. The next point is the constitution and legal system along with a secular education system protects universal human rights, which but however there are agreements with religious groups in place that provide a number of privileges to those groups, including tax exemption status. Next, there is no discrimination in education. In terms of education and the children rights only. Next, there is no religious tribunals of concern. Secular groups operate freely. Individuals are not persecuted by the states. And last point is some concern about political or media freedoms not specific to the non-religious. In this term of freedom of expression, advocacy of the mostly of the human values itself. Next, we move to the liberalism in Albania. It was founded in 1995 with the name Social Democratic Union of Albania. The breakaway was motivated by the Social Democratic Party leaving the governing coalition with the Democratic Party and the desire of some members, which is to maintain their ministerial posts or other high governmental appointment. The effort of Albania Orthodox Christian to adapt seems inadequate, which is they are facing regime of capitalism that absorb the socialist Balkans in the 1990s. The struggle of the post-communist Albanian autocephalous Orthodox Church that confront the universal liberal enterprise in the context of the concurrent tension within Albanian circles seeking the reaffirmation of ethno-nationalist concern. Mostly it will become more clearly with how necessary it is to read this ongoing a process of rebuilding on several institutional and ideological. Next is the rebuilding of the search reflect an aggressive missionary approach led by Greek Bond. Next, we move to the human rights in Albania. First and foremost is justice system. A vetting process for judges and prosecutors negatively impact on the functioning of the judiciary. Second is violence against women and girls, which is domestic violence remain widespread and previously adopt a measure to address it were inadequate. Third, women's right. Most women respondents report being subjected to sexual harassment, and some said they were denied maternity leave. The lastly is right of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and also intersex people, which is we call as LGBT. That's all from me. Thank you.